Oh boy, it's time for this episode. Some of you might not even know this episode exists, because apparently it's not even on streaming services in current DVD runs. But if you have a DVD set from before 2019, it should have this episode, and that seems to be the only way to watch it anymore. The reason for that, for those who are unaware, is that this episode stars Michael Jackson as Leon Kompowski, a character who thinks he's Michael Jackson. And in the wake of Leaving Neverland, the show's producers decided voluntarily to pull this episode from publication. I'm not here to talk about any of that, or about whether or not it's okay to patronize art created by people who did or may have done bad things. That's for you to decide for yourself if you're okay with that. And I often do find myself taking that kind of thing into consideration when deciding if I want to seek out a song or video or whatever, so I find myself on both sides of the argument. I have nothing to add to the conversation about the allegations against Michael Jackson, so I'm just going to leave it at that. If his presence in the topic of this video is uncomfortable, I understand if you don't want to watch this video. Please consider yourself content warned. I'm also maybe kinda gonna go to some very dark and very real places in discussing social persecution and some of the things it can lead to. And there are some current events that I understand are very stressful for a lot of people, so please consider yourself doubly content warned. With that out of the way, hi, I'm Torin, and welcome to Torin Loves the Simpsons. Today we're looking at Season 3, Episode 1, Stark Raving Dad, an episode where Bart's lucky red hat turns Homer's white shirts pink in the wash, leading the nuclear plant to commit Homer to a mental institution, where he meets Leon Kompowski, a man who thinks he's Michael Jackson and who helps Bart write a song for Lisa as a belated birthday present. Let's dive on in. We are starting with the humor on this one, and this episode has some nice moments. I think its best jokes are the ones that come out of nowhere, hit you with a quick punch, and slink off into the darkness. Like Dr. Monroe explaining that the test will determine just how crazy or meshuggah someone is, or the interaction between Homer and Chief. But there are rather few of those, or really of any major comedic moments. Lots of minor stuff, sure, but this gives me vibes of late Season 1 to early Season 2. Honestly, I think it probably was written around then, and they needed time to get Michael Jackson into the studio. Also, apparently this was a holdover episode from the Season 2 production cycle, as is mentioned in the DVD commentary. I'm not sure if this one ran into even more serious delays than Blood Feud, or if the producers just wanted to hold on to the episode to use as the season debut, but it makes it seem rather odd that they aired the Season 2 finale 2 months late. But I think that supports my suspicion that the episode was written around the same time as late Season 1 or early Season 2 episodes. In any case, it sure feels like an episode of that time period humor-wise, and I don't exactly mean that as a compliment. I also don't mean it as the biggest insult in the world, but it doesn't stand up to the last few episodes very well. It's a little boring sometimes. I do like the gag where Bart answers the home phone purporting to be a business, but as is also mentioned in the DVD commentary, the producers had the idea for that to be a running gag in the show, but the two examples in this episode were literally the only two that they could think of. But it makes for a nice gag in this episode. It's not enough to make this a top tier episode though. I'm gonna give the humor on this one a B+. As for the plot, wait, holy shit, is that the redone ambulance clip from One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish that I thought was originally used in Homer and Apu? I had no idea they used that clip in this episode. I get the feeling it's sneaking around in a few other episodes I don't even know about, and I think that means it's time to steal a gag from Civvy and start a counter. I think I want to use a different sound effect though. No! Yup, that's more like it. But okay, for the plot for realsies. I do greatly appreciate the absurdity of the reaction to Homer's pink shirt by literally everyone at the plant. And I don't mean absurdity to imply that it's unrealistic, because that's exactly what I appreciate about it. It's an apt commentary on the kinds of stupid shit people will get worked up over to the point of the ostracism and even dehumanization. From my own relatively minor experience of being bullied in middle school for being a male with long hair, to the far more chilling realities for groups like queer people, Jews, Muslims, people of color, people with disabilities, and probably a lot of other groups whose marginalization I don't even know about. There are a lot of people in the world who will get worked the fuck up over things that are not harmful, with responses ranging from harassment and social ostracism to violence and terrorism and even genocide. If you're wondering how we got from lol pink shirt to doing a genocide, that's exactly what a lot of us are wondering every time somebody shoots up a gay bar, or a place of worship, or a drag show, or when politicians enact laws that are, subtly or not so subtly, designed to silence the discussion in schools of the existence of queer people in order to brainwash kids into othering them. Radicalization to the point of committing those acts of violence or pushing for those kinds of dehumanizing laws happens in steps. And the first step is to start seeing people as others rather than as fellow humans. So, to wrap this whole long and dark point back around to plot analysis, I appreciate this jab at that first step. Taking people with pink shirts as a metaphor for any given marginalized group, I don't think this episode has ever fully prompted somebody to go from wanting to hurt or kill people with pink shirts to accepting or even tolerating them. But just as radicalization has to start somewhere and happen in steps, so too does recognizing that hate and bigotry is f***ing dangerous. And I really believe even small influences like this episode satirizing and ridiculing ostracism have positive impacts that grow slowly over time. And for that, I'm gonna bump this plot rating up a couple notches because that totally deserves bonus points in my book. That said, I believe I have spent enough time on this point, so I will finally move on. I generally tend to find the Bart-Lisa relationship and character dynamic to be a compelling one, and that holds true here even when I try to dismiss this plot as frivolous because, to me, it's just a stupid birthday present. Lisa is really hurt. She really wanted some kind of gesture from Bart, and he led her on pretty hard. I'm surprised Lisa would even ask, considering how equipped she is to recognize the emptiness of a gesture that she specifically asked for. So I get the feeling she was, from the start, coming at it from an angle of giving Bart one last chance to prove he cared even a little bit, which I think says a lot about how toxic Bart often is towards her and how worn down she is by it. And while I think that says some pretty dark things about the two of them as characters, it sure makes Happy Birthday Lisa a powerful moment. And I think that had at least something to do with how it became one of the classic and memorable moments of the early seasons. I mean, the fact that it was ostensibly Michael Jackson, then quite possibly the single most famous person in the world, singing was probably a much bigger factor, which is actually hilarious because it was not, in fact, Michael Jackson singing. According to the DVD commentary, Jackson wanted to see if he could fool his brothers into believing it was him, so he selected his own impersonator to sing that song. Although apparently not all the singing in the episode, as at least some of the examples of Leon singing earlier in the episode were indeed sung by Jackson himself. This contradicts a statement that I heard from some interview with at least one of the voice cast, which recalled an exchange between Dan Castellaneta and Yardley Smith during one of the pre-recording table reads, where, come time for the big song at the end, Jackson sat back and the impersonator sang the part, and one of the actors supposed to the other that the show could afford the speaking Michael Jackson, but not the singing Michael Jackson. The official story is that Jackson wanted to prank his brothers. In any case, it turns out John J. Smith is not just one person. But with that tangent aside, I want to re-examine for a moment what I said about the character of Leon Kompowski being voiced by Michael Jackson, an extremely famous person. Because that, I think, was not exactly done very well. A few episodes ago, I praised Brush with Greatness for incorporating Ringo, another extremely famous person, in a way that managed to be not just plot relevant, but plot significant without wrapping the entire story up in him. Ringo gets a couple brief moments in the spotlight, delivers a banger of a certified S-tier moment, moves the plot along a little bit, and bounces on out. This episode doesn't do that. It does go for a different angle, sure, that it's very obviously not actually Michael Jackson, but I think it spends too much of the episode on that, and the episode loses focus on the Bart-Lisa thing for something no more substantial than OMG Michael Jackson. And, well, I already gave the humor a B+, so clearly I don't find the jokes pulled from it are worth the loss of focus. So that results in a large portion of the episode that I just find kind of boring and wasted. We get some strong stuff at the beginning and end, and that's really about it. So even with the bonus points I mentioned earlier, I'm giving this plot a B+. And now for the final rating. Obvious B+. It made waves when it was new, and it produced a classic moment that was nice while it lasted, even if the show's own producers now want to bury it due to renewed allegations. But it's not great now, and I think it perhaps never was. If you've never seen it and you're curious because of its current status as a discontinued episode, I totally get that, but you're honestly not missing much, in my personal opinion. Thanks for watching. That one was a video. It certainly was a video, wasn't it? If you made it this far, I appreciate you sticking around for those pretty serious topics. If you are so inclined, you're certainly welcome to click the like button and subscribe. I kinda really hate shilling algorithm bullshit here after talking so serious, but hey, it's YouTube, and the algorithm decides all, and I must ask you to help me pay tribute to appease the almighty algorithm or be permanently doomed to obscurity. Anyways, up next is Season 3, Episode 2, Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington, which, oh boy, is going to be another episode where I get worked up over politics, so I'm sure looking forward to that, and I will see you in that video.